All right, here we are, Dave.
Yeah, here we are. This is episode 5.
Episode 5.
Excellent.
End of month dealership dynamics. We'll talk about sales. We'll talk about motivation. We'll talk about mindset. This will be a shorter episode than some of the others. For anyone that has been tuning in so far, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Every like and subscriber that we get out there really does mean the world to us. So we're new at this. We're sticking to this, and it's been fun doing it so far.
Well, let me add piece 2. I think intent might carry through the camera on the video the why behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And the why for us, and I know for me, is that we have these meetings every week in our office.
Yeah.
And we talk about these things all the time.
Yeah.
And I know that if I had heard these things 30 years ago or 35 years ago, they would have helped me. I hear other people's podcasts, and there's things that they're talking about that they're going through that help me.
Yeah.
So, number one, we can archive it for ourselves, for future employees, for family, friends. But then let's give people a peek behind the curtain of what we're going through, because that dynamic might be something that they're going through, and it might help to know that someone else is going through the same thing. And what are we doing about it?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's commiserating. I would just say it's empathy.
Well, I think we just talked about this, right? A couple of days ago, we were on the phone speaking about this, which is COVID was a difficult time for a lot of people, for the fact that you lost your main connection. A lot of people, once you graduate high school and graduate college and now you're in the workforce, you don't have that much time to spend and interact with others outside of your workplace. That is where a lot of people get and feed their social battery, if you will, from that workplace. Many businesses, they were shut down, or this whole work from home wave, I think took business by storm. For us, what was so, enlightening, awesome, was we didn't close our doors for a second. We were fortunate enough to remain busy, and we showed up to the office every single day. So I think that sense of camaraderie, teamwork, culture is something that helped our business get through some of those tougher times and get on the other end, I think, that much better.
When you brought up COVID, you brought up people working remote, people working by themselves, people being by themselves, people going through depression, people feeling a certain anxiety. And then they're saying to themselves, I don't matter, or it doesn't matter. And having a place to go sometimes fuels you. Sometimes you need to take energy from something other than being a self-starter and creating. It's very difficult in a lot of jobs, maybe at some level in all, to work by yourself. Because if you are by yourself, then you have to supply it all, except for maybe the people you talk to. And if you're not really talking to anybody, then there you are. And not everybody feels good every single day with themselves. So when I bring up the situation with a friend and one of our employees, we were talking about this. And sometimes you don't feel your best. You don't think it matters or you matter. And you're kind of listless and you're down and you don't want to do anything. Yet when you force yourself to take an action that you otherwise might think doesn't matter, or you don't care to because you feel like you got that F it mentality.
Yeah.
When you go and just show up, it's amazing how many times you'll have found in your life that it mattered that you did. And you actually got more out of going than you thought you'd get because you wound up helping somebody else.
Yeah.
And by helping somebody else or finding this coincidence or this happenstance, you start saying, wow, I do have value. Wow, it was good I breathed today. But that energy that you absorbed helped you get out of your own way. And that's why I think it's so difficult to work by yourself, and what people went through during COVID. We talked about how it affected learning, how it affected mood, how it affected people's growth. They've done controlled studies on this. I don't know what the answers were. But I think it was a nice awakening for to be reminded of his value and how important he is, right? And it's fine, and just for anybody that's listening, but everybody has their day. We all do. And I know for myself, when I don't feel like it, I could just show up at some workout center or come to work. And I know coming to work, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
There's those days I know I have to put on a happy face when I'd rather have a glum face. Maybe people haven't seen me in a while. So I have a responsibility to that person I've told the universe that I want to be, that I hopefully have become. If I walk in with a mask on as somebody else, I'm going to disappoint some people or not be able to help people like I'd like to. So I got to get pumped up. I go, come on, Dave, let's go.
Yeah.
And then I get into the office and people say, oh, you're being a fake. Yeah, I absolutely am being a fake. I don't feel the way I'm acting, but I start to feel the way I'm acting. And then I engage people with an attitude that makes them feel like approaching me. And before you know it, they're helping me.
Mhm. That energy it's contagious. I think it's a two-way street. So as much as you might feel down for the day, the one interaction with an employee, with a friend, can be that trigger that sparks it all for you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I just heard, I don't know, you hear so many things about stats. 12 minutes talking to a friend could be the difference between that friend getting out of their doldrums or not, just because they spewed it
Mm-hmm.
to somebody that cared. And then you might offer up something that can help them. So think about those interactions throughout the day. You might discount yourself, but next thing you know, you're in harm's way, if you want to call it that. Somebody needs to talk to you, or you notice it. You say, wow, I'm going to just sit down with this person. You don't feel like it. You don't feel like what you have to say matters, but you do. And you can see the shift in that person's physiology. They feel better. And then actually you feel better.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff.
Yeah. And I think just I've gotten this, I think, from someone I've spoken to before, or maybe read it somewhere, but it's people talk about being a great conversationalist or having a great conversation with someone often isn't you saying anything.
Yeah.
It's just shutting up and listening to the
Yeah.
person and letting the person get out what it is that they had at the top of their mind. And then they leave that conversation, even if you didn't give them much,
Yeah.
with, that was a really nice conversation. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that time. So
Yeah.
people want to be heard, be that thing for them sometimes, because you never know who might need it, or who might have that day where things aren't going the way that they want them to.
Yeah. Being a caring soul. So that's all it really is. Just care. Showing
Yeah.
concern by, to your point, listening.
Well, we've got a great environment here, and for any listeners, our company is always growing and aggressively growing. So for any younger listeners that are looking for a start in the sales industry or technology industry, or just getting started, know that there's always a place and always room for someone to call Paramount home as well. Well, let's talk about, Dave. I know you wanted to talk about an encounter recently. I think it was with Frank, and there was a certain story that occurred recently, and it got you thinking about sales, a bit of motivational. Talk about that.
Well, I want to talk about our meeting Friday, was kind of stemmed from the meeting we had on Monday or Tuesday.
Monday.
Our building out our sales department. That a lot of our warriors want to be warriors and don't know how to get started. They need to be coached.
Yeah.
So the best way we decided to do that was to group them in teams. So we're going to have whatever, 4 3-person teams,
Yeah.
or 3 4-person teams, so that they can have a bit of a camaraderie, because a lot of these guys are used to playing team sports. And through this camaraderie, the how-to will start presenting itself, because most of the guys don't really know how to get started.
Yeah.
Whether it's making the phone calls that become contacts, the contacts that become demos and assessments that lead to a personal visit, whatever that system or systematic process is.
Mhm.
When you're by yourself, back to the COVID thing.
Yeah.
How do I get started? Where do I get the energy to start?
Yeah.
A lot of people oscillate. I know I do.
Yeah.
My hardest thing is how to get started at certain projects. Then once I'm going,
Yeah.
so you can draw the energy from your teammate that might make a call. One good call, boom. I can do that too. So that's what started on Monday.
And we heard some of that feedback too, as well, to that point of there was some fear involved, right? It was, well, I don't feel that confident when I'm making these calls. I don't know if I really have my pitch down. So then fear is holding them back from even getting started.
Fear. And what is fear? Fear is, false evidence appearing real, FEAR. A lot of things that we fear, we go and do, and then there was nothing to be afraid of. How do I take that first step?
Yeah.
And a lot of them want to be sure. So then you just reframe it for them. What is the outcome that you're trying to get from taking that action on that sales call? So many people think, I got to get a sale. No, you don't. You got to make the call. That's what we shared with our people. By taking that action, you've already won, because 99% of people will talk themselves out of the action. After you take the action, what's the next success? The next success is saying something when you might otherwise want to hang up the phone. Ask a question. Now we go ahead and we use a reframe which says, this is like a bucking bronco or you're a bull rider. How long can you stay on the bull?
Yeah.
And start measuring your success by your ability to stay on the bull and not worry about the end result. But you'll start taking success away from taking action, and then actions lead to better thoughts, not vice versa. Let me think this through. The people that sit there thinking don't get anything done, just act, and then you'll learn. And I think that you never really fail, right? You just don't get the results you want. You keep going. So to the lead in for Frank, which I knew we're going to have in the sales meeting Friday. Really, the end result was Frank had heard from somebody else that a sale is a sale when you get the money, when somebody signs the contract and you get paid. If someone says, yep, I'm in 100%, just call me back on Friday, or I'm in 100%, let me just do this one thing, they are not sold. And doesn't matter if this person is a liar or because maybe there's 2 or 3 people involved and it's the game of telephone and the last person hears something and it bothers you that they heard this because that's not true and that's not the way it went. Who cares? Here's what happened. You were talking to this person that was the decision maker and they were not sold. So while you have that person in front of you next time, don't worry as much about what the end person that listens or heard the story thinks. Don't worry as much about what someone told you going into the conversation, how it might go, because now you're going to start trying to be what you think somebody else wants you to be. You're the one in the middle of that war or that conversation. Sales is problem solving. If that person has an issue with something, it doesn't matter what you were told going into it. You're in it.
Yeah.
So you do the best that you can. So that was the point one to learn was they're not sold until you get the contract and you get paid. And if you're having to do something more and you're there, stop what you're doing and address that issue, whatever it might be. Another piece was price and the macroeconomics of price. If someone's bringing up price, then they don't know the full value of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So at least for our example, if someone says, well, I only have this much money, my first response is money doesn't matter as long as you know what your return is.
Yeah.
So for example, if something costs $10,000 and their budget is $8,000, who cares that it's $2,000 more than their budget? Why do you have a budget in the first place? Because the budget is an expense based on an amount of money that you have. But if we are going to bring them more money from their money, and that's a guarantee, 100%, they're going to get this return, then it doesn't matter how much it costs. If you spent $1 and always got back $5, would you care how many dollars you spent? There's no budget. It's limitless. You have to remember that as a salesperson. If people start trying to work your price down, all you have to suggest or remind them, do you want less of an effort? Why is it you want to pay me less for what I'm going to bring you and what I'm going to do? Don't let them devalue you.
Yeah.
Number 2, the way to not let them devalue you is to truly understand how to value yourself. So for example, if someone says to me, hey Dave, you want to charge me 10 grand for this piece of paper, I just don't think that piece of paper is worth $10,000. And I say, oh, is that what you think? You think that I'm asking you for $10,000 just for this piece of paper? No, I'm your partner. And as your partner, you're going to get this piece of paper. And when you need me, because you're going to get to the end of the month when maybe you need 15 more surveys of 1,000 for your CSI scores so you can get all this extra money. And when you need 5 new cars sold and we're not signed up for this equity package, I'm going to add that piece. And the CSI piece that you didn't really sign up for, now I'm making that part of the $10,000 for this sheet of paper. This by itself is $5 grand. This by itself is $5 grand. When your people who are struggling, they don't know how to sell, my people are there physically. My people don't just show up at dealerships physically for this $10,000 piece of paper. That's an value add, another $5,000. So $5,000 for my people to show up at your dealership, $5,000 for the CSI help, $5,000 for the extra new car sales towards the end of the month, equity mining. That's 15 grand. Plus the 10 grand for this piece of paper. That's $25,000 I'm giving you for $10,000. Now, do you understand why my price is $10,000?
Yeah.
And that's the learning moment
Yeah.
that I wanted to make sure Frank understood.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I want to make a sale, and I
Right.
want to do it for the house.
Right.
My only sticking point is that this guy says that this is his budget. Let me call his bluff, and then it's not his bluff, and then all of a sudden they think that there's a possibility of getting this because no, all you gotta say is no, we're not doing that. Especially if there's a rebuttal, right? Oh,
Yeah.
well, we could always do something less.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, and I was just going to say, as a salesperson, I've been there before. I've been
Yeah,
in those
we all have.
shoes where you really want to.
All I have to do is,
I want to land the deal. I've been working this for a long time. We get to the finish line. You're at the 1 yard line, and then the terms change or the price comes down. And sometimes it's you just settle. Let me just take it. But I think long term, that's devaluing yourself. That's devaluing your company. That's devaluing your brand. Once you offer up some sort of special discount one time, well, then you're doing a disservice to all your other prospective clients that are going to be looking for the same thing.
well, right. And you can, don't get me wrong. You can have a smaller package and things like that. Just take into account the macroeconomics of the decision you're making and why someone's not sold.
Yeah.
So at least first make your attempt to sell them on why your price is what it is and stick to your guns. Now, if they want a different package that incorporates something less and takes into account that they don't get all these extras, and then they can't say, oh, I just, we weaseled these guys and wiggled them down, fine. But if all of a sudden you're devaluing yourself, they said, hey, I got that same piece of paper for $8,000. Well, now that can spread to your other customers.
Yeah.
It goes to you, and that's not ultimately what you want.
And I think operating in a service business like we operate in, the expectation setting piece is also so critical. So although one person might get a $15,000 piece of paper and another person gets an $8,000 piece of paper, ensuring that those expectations are clear and set, because it's happened in the past where we have one of our sales guys, right, not naming any names, go rogue and they sell the dream for a small price, and then the expectations are all out of whack. We'll perform and do the work and think that we did good, but the expectations were way out of whack.
Well, that doesn't matter. The last thought that I had was that when we're working on helping somebody, we have to understand what is the outcome they really want.
Yeah.
And once we really understand the outcome, we're not going to allow them with their filters to change our product. Hey, I want this outcome, but I want you guys to do it this way. No, that's not how we do it. Last thought you were going to guide us into.
Last segment. Yeah, last segment, and then we'll wrap it up. So again, today we're filming. This is Wednesday, April 23rd. There's a week left in the month of April. We know what's been going on in the automotive industry. March it seemed like a pretty good month. I know it finished pretty strong. There was a lot of wind-aided help from tariff talk and come in and get your car now before tariffs happen. Seems like April has gotten off to maybe a little bit of a slower start than some dealers were anticipating. Now it's the last 7 days. This is a make it or break it time. So if you're sitting in the shoes, Dave, of a general manager, a partner of a dealership, what are some thoughts you're having right now of what do I need to do over these next 7 days to maximize my month?
Oh, that's a good question.
You're a GM. It's end of the month. What are you thinking?
Well, here's a couple of things. One, I got to be thinking about May. I'm not going to get out of the trenches, but whatever's a cause already set in motion, what I'm experiencing right now in April has to do with what I didn't think about in March or January, February. So whatever it is I want to happen in May, I've got to start now.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking for somebody to pull me out or a vendor to help internally, I got to think about what those things are that are possibly influenced by action and controlled by action. What are my thoughts going to be? My thoughts are going to be on, am I maximizing the opportunities that are put before me? What does maximizing an opportunity look like? Do I know how every one of my customers have been treated? Have I done a thorough assessment of A to Z closing procedure for every customer? And odds are it's not happening at dealerships. For whatever reason, their management team, their sales team, customers are getting groomed, or they're not getting called back to come back in. This show them missed opportunities. That's one area. Is my advertising doing what it's supposed to be doing? How many leads did I get from each source? What has been the conversion of those leads? Am I getting the right conversion of appointments, shows, and souls when I first paid the money and said, hey, I need this many sales? Because if you want to sell 100 cars, 200 cars, 400 cars, it's math. You need to see a certain amount of bodies. You're going to get those bodies from the conversion of a certain amount of leads from internet, phone leads, equity mining, previously sold customers, and conquest customers in your service drive, and walk-in traffic.
Yep.
That's what I'm looking at as a GM right now. What were those numbers supposed to be? What are they right now? Why are they that way? What have I done with showroomist follow-up? What has been the interaction with every one of my customers? What do the notes say why these people didn't buy? So who's being inefficient? Because most of the time, you're going to attack your BDC. You're going to attack the mechanism that brings in floor traffic. Blame it on them if the floor traffic's bad. Blame it on the advertising. But I think at the end of the day, you start with your management team and your salespeople and see if they're doing their job the way they're supposed to do it. That's what I look at right now, if I'm a GM or a partner. Then I look at my advertising. Is that doing the effective work it's supposed to do? And then I look at my conversion mechanism, which is either the salespeople round robin, the BDC, or the outsourced BDC. Is that happening the way it's supposed to happen? And then I make a decision on what has to happen in these next 7 days to give me assurances that May is going to be what it's supposed to do. And I would give myself a goal, whatever that might be, that there's going to be a TO and a process on every one of these customers that gets up. Every single one of them is going to be put in the CRM, and notes are going to be clear. And every time someone visits with a customer, they're going to read the notes first. They're going to go through this process every single time. And if I have to sit at the front door of the dealership and lock all the other doors and make sure that there's enough people in or on the in the lot, making sure ups are coming in, whatever I got to do to funnel it to my management team, that they greet that customer, and then that customer sits down. It's a simple process.
Yeah.
But it's just not happening in enough dealerships consistently.
Yeah.
And that's what I told.
And what are some of the ways that we Paramount during this time, end of the month, what are some of the ways that we help add additional value? And what is the sort of sense of urgency that we normally operate with? I know we talk about all the time. I mean, a dealership's goals are our goals. And I feel like sometimes with certain dealerships, it feels like we care more about them hitting their new car number than they might care about hitting their new car number. What are we focused on right now when it's end of the month?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to, like we just talked about, getting to that owner, the general manager. What is your goal for these next 7 days in terms of cars sold and new cars sold? Okay. And then we talk about what has to happen, do you think, internally? And we bring up some of these points. We look at their advertising for them. We look at where their CSI scores are, because this could be a way of fixing things for me also, and getting them some money at the end of the month. There's some big incentives out there for new car sold, if you have a certain score, KSI, CSI, whatever it might be. KSI is probably key to it. And then we tell them, look, this is what you need to do, and we can do it for you on your showroom missed follow last 30 days. We know just by calling these with our professional approach, we can get 30% of those missed opportunities back in your store. We know that we can get your CSI score to from 890 to 930 or whatever it needs to be. We know that you need to sell those aged inventory, that specific inventory. We know how to target it, and we know how to get customers that have that same model from 3-4 years ago in your store this week. That's our equity mining program. Mm-hmm. We know how to get people out of your service drive that are driving Fords if you're Stellantis, and if you're Stellantis, driving Chevy, whatever that is that you need us to focus on, we can bring those specific customers to you. If you need to hit the Latin community and you need Spanish-speaking people in there, we will do those things for you because we are your partner. We're your teammate. When you're sitting around looking around, who can do this for me? That's what Paramount can do. End of the month, beginning of the month, all month long. And that coordination, that consulting, we're also that ear. I know I've talked to several that are struggling, and they're struggling with their GM, and they're struggling with showroom traffic has dropped off of a cliff. I tell them, I'm with you. Don't worry. You don't got to pay me more money. I'm not asking for any more. When I prove it, then I'm going to be asking for more. But keep us in here because whenever you need the extra thing, we are here. Your insurance blanket. Your showroom traffic dropped off a cliff. You're seeing 100 less people per month selling 40 to 50 less cars from that. Probably more like 30 or 40. Okay, how are you going to make up for it the last week of April? How are you going to make it up in May, potentially, if these other things are doing what they're doing? Just spend more money in advertising? No. We can throw more skilled labor at it, and I can bring you an additional 100 people from your previous sold customers and your conquest customers in service. That's real easy. If I want to bring you 50, 12, 13 a week. And now, out of those 50 previously sold customers with a great trade and realistic expectation, how many are you going to sell? 25 or 30? There's your 30 cars.
Last question, just tactical. It's the end of the month. Again, people are hitting the phones. You're being aggressive. What are some narratives that you can tell a customer on the telephone of why the end of the month might be different as opposed to any other time? What are some tactical things, one-liners? What's the magic bullet? What's the key phrase? Although there is none. But what is some advice that you could give someone of what they should say on the telephone to help make their end of month push stronger than it's been?
All right, so I think what you're asking me is, Dave, teach them how to sell.
A little bit. Give them some inside baseball here. Give them a couple tips, end of month, how to create a higher sense of urgency of why right now.
As far as magic words, what you have to know is the magic behind the words. And the magic behind selling anything is understanding the human condition. People don't love the trip to the car dealership, just like they don't love the trip to the dentist. So use that. Say that to somebody. Say, hey, would you agree that it's fair to say if we were on Family Feud and someone said, when you think of the dentist, top 5 answers on the board, when you think of the dentist, what comes to mind? We're going to hear pain, money, time, toothache, drills, whatever. And we're going to say, yeah. And when you think of car salesmen and you think of trips to the car dealership, top 5 answers on the board, $1 million prize. Thieves, we know these aren't true. We don't think of this ourselves this way. This is general population. So when you go to talk to these customers that were showroom missed, they're conquest customers loving their car in service or previously sold customers. They are internet leads that you finally got on the phone that said, I was just kind of looking around.
Maybe next month.
You don't say, oh, okay, well, whenever you decide it's time, give us a call because we're the friendly folks at ABC Dealership. No, you tell them and you suggest to them the reason why they were searching for that vehicle with that internet lead is because something hit them. Something was coincidentally knocking on their door that they might need a car some point in the future. Is that true, Mr. Customer? Well, yeah, you weren't shopping for moccasins, I'm guessing, and you weren't shopping for pizza. You put all your information in. Just tell me why you did it that day, at that time of day. It's one thing. 2, I would suggest to them that most people don't love to buy cars like they don't love going to the dentist. Most. And I would say, what would you like out of the outcome when you go to the dealership to finally buy? What do you want your outcome to be? And they'll say, well, I want to buy a new car. Yeah, but I'm guessing you want to get a good deal. You want to get a great price, the best price possible. Isn't that fair? Well, yeah. And if you are trading in a vehicle, I would ask the second question. Well, this isn't the second question, excuse me. But if you are trading a vehicle, you also want to get a great value for your trade. Isn't that true? Well, yeah, that's true. Okay. Well, what we're suggesting here right now, Dom, this is some of those silver bullet words, but it's more on the mentality that people don't love to buy cars. People don't love the dentist. People love good deals. They don't want to be taken advantage of. And you have to talk about this stuff with them.
Yeah.
That's the elephant in the room. Bring it up. And then suggest to them strongly that if they ever want to get a great deal on buying a new car, they need to go to the dealership that calls them and tells them that we need to make our quotas this month. We're behind the 8 ball, and we're going to be very aggressive. So if you think you might buy in the next year or 2, now is the time. And I just want to come in and show you how aggressive we want to be. That's what I would say. And then I would say, hey, you still driving that such and such automobile? How's it running? Oh, it's running great. When do you think the best time to trade that car in would be? While you love it and it's running great, or when it breaks down on the side of the highway, leaves you alone at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to call it AAA? What do you think then is the time to trade it in, or possibly while it's still running good and you love it. Okay. Well, we want it. We know right now we can resell it and make a good profit. We want to share that with you. So come on in, bring it in, give us a chance. At least now you're appealing to their sense of opportunity for great deals and their sense of being taken advantage of potentially because they already fear that at some point in the future, the unknown. Make them understand they have the power right now because you want what they have. You need to sell a certain amount of cars this month, and they have the ability to tell you no because they still love what they're driving. That's the helpful hint.
Yeah. That's great. That was beautiful. It's speak with an added sense of urgency, call out that elephant in the room, and that's a way of building rapport. I think that was great, Dave.
Cool.
Thank you. This will wrap up episode 5 here of the Paramount Podcast. This was fun. We'll have some exciting things in store for the next episode, so tune in. Thank you so much. Again, Dominic Bickus, your host, and our lovely guest, Mr. Dave Dini.
Thank you very much. Take care.